When I think about the best caseworker, I have to think about lots of different caseworkers that I've worked with over the years who have done just such incredible things for kids and families. It takes all different qualities, but I think there are some things that the really good ones have in common. They are compassionate, without a doubt. They are compassionate, they are non-judgmental, they are intelligent, and they are determined and have a lot of perseverance.
What called me to the works is a sense of community. It's really important to me to ensure that I give back to my community. I feel like it's my obligation, and I feel like it's the best thing that I can do as an individual.
I graduated with a degree in criminal justice, but this job found me.
I wanted to help people and make a difference, and I love kids, so I wanted to be a part of impacting people's lives and making kids safe.
Me being the person that helps out a lot of kids, make sure they're safe and that they have a place to stay, that their necessities are being provided for.
I chose to go into social casework and into child welfare and child protection is to work with people and help better people's lives.
As a young man, I was involved in the system as well. So as I grew and became my own man, graduated from college, and got my degree in psychology, I wanted to go into child welfare work myself.
I knew I wanted to be involved in the government helping people, and the door opened up for me to get involved with child protection work, and I took the opportunity.
I think this is the career that really finds you. I think the things that I like about it is it's really fast-paced. You really get to have those meaningful connections with families and with people. And now as a supervisor, I can have those meaningful connections with my workers. I think it's gotten in my blood, and it's where I'm going to retire from.
I imagined that it would be an 8-to-5 job. I would go into everybody's home, make a difference. I would help people. They would all love me. That it would be this perfect picture experience. So the job was a lot different than what I imagined.
I would tell you that there is no more meaningful work that you can do. I would tell you you are going to meet incredible people. It can be so rewarding, and you truly can impact a child and a family every time you go to work every day. I would also tell you to be prepared, that this is a tough job. You have to have a certain strength about you to do it. You have to be able to do hard work that often feels very difficult and very sad and very painful, so be prepared. But I wouldn't back away from it. If your heart is in it, there's no better job to do.
The process of determining if a case gets assigned for assessment or not is made with a team of people. It's not just one supervisor or one caseworker making that decision. Everyone's voice is heard, and everyone brings something different to the table about whether this needs to be assigned for assessment.
The other hardest part is seeing how some people live their lives, seeing what some kids go through. Watching a hurt, injured kid is really difficult, and trying to be there when a family's in trauma and crisis.
The hardest part about this job is the really tough cases. You see some things that not everybody has to see, and that's really difficult. It can be really hard on you. It can be hard to go home at night and think about your own family and how you were raised differently, or how similar or different your family was, and that's really difficult.
When my children were going to be taken away from me, I was at the hospital. My daughter tested positive for methamphetamines in her system.
Sometimes people cried, sometimes people yelled, they screamed. It just depended on the situation. There was moments where you had to do things and remove kids from homes, and you saw a family at some point and children hurt and cry, and you had to be there and be through that experience and also conceptualize it for a kid that what was happening so they understood a little bit. So it was hard.
Hardest part of the work I do would definitely be placing children outside their homes. I understand it. I understand that there's a reason for it, and I understand that there are situations where it cannot be avoided, but it's still hard.
My husband at the time did not know that I was using at all, so he was completely in shock and angry and upset with me.
I think the hardest part about this work is removing children and not knowing how long it will be until they get to go home to their parents, or when they'll be able to see their parents the next time.
It was the scariest thing that ever happened to me. They were gonna take my children from me. And I didn't know if I was gonna see them again. It made me feel like a horrible person and a bad parent. And that I didn't love my kids. That was the farthest thing from the truth.
For me and my sisters, being in foster care was absolutely terrifying, but we were better off because of it. We were in a real bad way when we were brought into the system, and if we hadn't been, we probably would have died.
There was 2 social workers that came to talk to us at the hospital, and they told us not only was our newborn baby not going home with us, but our 2 children that were currently in our home also not going to be able to go home with us.
One of the hardest moments as a caseworker was, when I had to remove a kiddo, and he was close to my son's age. And I was trying to explain to him why he had to come with me, and he couldn't stay with his mom and dad. I was also pregnant at the time of that. And so I remember just feeling so exhausted because here I left this baby and took him to a foster home, and he didn't really know where he was going. And that was the night that I had to go home and just hug my 3-year-old and be there for him that night. And he didn't know what I seen, he didn't know what I had went through. But it was a night where I held him, and I remember thinking, you will never know what I see, and you will never experience what some of my kids experience on my caseload.
I was not allowed to be alone with my children. I couldn't breastfeed my baby. It's supposed to be the happiest time of your life, and it was really bad.
What matters most to me about being a supervisor is the support that I can give to my workers. I know what it's like to be a caseworker, and I know how hard it is day in, day out, the fast pace. And if there's anything that I can do to make it easier on my caseworkers, that's my job.
Being involved in child welfare is scary. Fear manifests as anger, as blaming, as being reclusive and trying to pull away from the situation. For that to get broken up or changed, or for the department to be involved and to have to take your kids away for a portion of time, it starts off as fear, which is generally anger towards the person that is putting this on you.
I've seen caseworkers work with babies and find them homes when parents couldn't overcome their addiction. I see caseworkers who take the middle school kids and work with them and find them families. And I think maybe most touchingly, sometimes I see the caseworkers who work with our older youth who are going to emancipate out of the system, who truly have nobody in their lives. And a caseworker can be such an important person.
It's hard when kids have not specifically been hurt by their parents, like physically or even emotionally. Say there's an instance of a parent being arrested and jailed on drug charges or something else that has never specifically directly impacted the children, and then them being removed from the home and not being able to see their parents, and the kids just not understanding what's happening. I think that's, and trying to explain it in kid words and, their developmental level, but it's never easy, no matter how old the kid is.
I didn't know at the time what I had done wrong to deserve this, or like why my mom didn't care to be there for me. And I just felt hurt most of the time. and unwanted.
I love adolescents, I love working with youth, and I want to see them do well, and I want to make sure that they are steered in the right direction.
Me and my caseworker, we would meet on a weekly basis. She would help me get to therapy and to groups.
I hope people that are thinking about becoming a caseworker are people that understand that children that are in foster care or kinship care, we don't always have a good day, but we don't always have a bad day. And at the end of the day, we really just want to feel like we matter to somebody.
To anyone who's considering working with the children that have been put into foster care, take it slow. They're going to be scared, they're going to be confused, they're not going to want to trust you. You're going to have to show them that they can and should trust you, and that's going to take time.
I heard someone yesterday tell their story of growing up in the system, and this is now a 30-year-old professional woman who's doing beautifully. And she talked about what a difference it makes if you have one supportive person in your life. And she talked about her caseworker. And she said, I remember that my caseworker never yelled at me or said anything to me in anger. And I thought that was just so powerful.
I would say for people who are considering becoming a future caseworker, work with the homeless youth, work with the kids who have the mental disabilities and the babies and the toddlers, and see every aspect of it, because we need you to. We need you to see that aspect. It's hard to communicate sometimes what we need, and we may not say it in the nicest way sometimes, but typically it's because you're the person who's closest to us. Being someone who's struggling, you feel it's okay to lash out because they're gonna forgive you, they still love you.
As a judge, when I'm watching a caseworker, I'm talking to the person who probably has the most information about a child and a family. And I'm talking to someone or watching someone who can help me make the best decision I can for a person. They are the ones who come in, and they're generally sitting fairly quietly in court, but I know they're the ones who've been out in that home, maybe in the middle of the night or all times of crisis. They've visited children in residential treatment centers. So I'm watching the person who has truly been on the front lines, and also the person who has then gone back to the office and spent hours entering data or writing reports and doing the 100 things that they have to do to make a case file complete so that they can come into the courtroom and give a judge good information.
It's very difficult to go on the stand and say all the things that they have done wrong, even though they have done some things right.
What makes court particularly hard is a lot of times if the attorneys are against the reason why we removed, that could be a problem. If we're not in agreement in placement and where the kids place that can also be overwhelming. And then of course the judge, and you're answering to the judge. So when you're first starting out as a caseworker, it's overwhelming.
It takes a long time for that fear to subside. I think not knowing what's happening next in your case perpetuates the fear in that you still don't know that you're going to get your children back, or when you're going to get them back, or what exactly is the key to making that happen.
The hardest part about my job is feeling like I failed a family after they're not able to complete their treatment plan and their child is adopted by someone else after we go through termination.
It's not easy work. This is very, very hard, detailed, difficult work, but it's very rewarding and it's very uplifting, especially when you have you have your team here, you have supportive management. We get very creative, we're very flexible, we like to have fun, but at the end of the day, we're here to do a job and we're here to do it to the best of our ability.
The time I spend on paperwork, 75% of my job.
It's a lot of work. There's a lot of information that needs to be written down and put into the trail system. Everything that a client tells you, everything that a collateral tells you needs to be documented, and it needs to be documented by a certain time. There are time frames, and that makes it hard, especially when you come into work planning to do paperwork and then something else kind of changes that.
Typically we'll staff a case that's a struggle. That way we're getting fresh ideas, because sometimes when it's just you thinking about a case, you're just using the same ideas over and over, so that can be helpful to hear what other people have to say.
The first supervisor I worked under was kind of like my mom. She really took me up under her wing. She was really patient with me. She really showed me the ropes in regards to how to deal with youth, and really made it a home-like atmosphere at the job.
Supervisors are kind of your first go-to person for if you have an issue. I go and do supervision. I have supervision about once a week or once every other week, where we talk about my cases and what's going on with them, what's going well, what isn't going well.
My relationship with my supervisor is amazing. He is flexible, he's reliable, he is always there when we need him. He's always there to help cover things if we're busy. His door is always open.
When I think about the impact a caseworker can have in child welfare, in the courtrooms, and in the larger community, they have such an important role. I don't think that most people who go about their daily lives have any idea of the number of children and families that we have right here in Colorado who desperately need help. They don't know the number of children who are out there on their own, who are homeless, who are being abused, and who need help. When I think of the caseworkers, I know that they are not just helping the one family they're focused on, they have an enormous impact on the rest of the community. They also impact how other families that might need help feel about the system. If there's a caseworker and a family learns this is somebody who's here to help me, that can change a family's perception of the system and their willingness to say, maybe I need some help.
A lot of your work here is really building relationships, and those relationships are either with the individual child clients we serve, the parents of that child client, or even professionals. And I started to realize that so much of the job is really just that rapport building with all of these various collaterals that you work with while you're trying to help one family or even one child.
What has me remaining in child welfare is just my passion to work with families and seeing the positive outcomes that do come from our involvement with families.
What I love most about my work is working with my coworkers and the families. I love the interaction with both professionals and the families, the fact that we get to come together, figure out what services we need to address the safety concerns, have families tell us what that they need.
A good attribute of a caseworker is to be direct and to let a client know exactly what is expected of them next. While it can be construed as harsh, it's what's needed in the situation, and it'll give you a level of comfort because you know the next thing that's expected of you.
Family engagement meetings are really helpful when determining next steps with a family, because you can get everyone in the room at the same time. Have the family have their supports, also have the caseworker, a separate facilitator, and anyone else that the family might want in the room to talk about what our worries are, what's going well with the family, and our next steps.
They need to want to do this work because they're human. Because really, in reality, the parents and the family want you to be you. They want you to be honest, and they want you to be supportive. If you're not any of those, then this isn't your kind of work.
If you want to be good at being a caseworker, you want to actually be willing to work with kids and kids who've been through a lot. You'd want to really work with them.
We want to feel like somebody cares about our well-being and who we are, and we want to feel like we're loved. It's just, to make us feel something that we haven't felt in a very long time.
And I want caseworkers to remember that we're people too. And we may not be like you, but you guys shape our lives. You guys really do.
We wouldn't be who we are today or where we are today had we not gone through those trials and been able to come out the other side. So, yeah, thank you.
If I was never in the child welfare system, I definitely would not be in college. I don't even know if I could graduate high school. I would probably have had to move out when I was, 13 or 14 and figure out what to do with no job and no way to, provide for myself. I honestly probably would have ended just like both my parents, just trying to find the easiest way to get money as fast as I could.
While it was scary getting put in the system, it probably saved our lives.
What my case manager did was give me hope, and that was just amazing. And that's what I wish every case manager could do. And it's so simple. I believe in you. And you're gonna screw up, and we're gonna have issues, and we're not always gonna love each other, but I believe in you.
Yeah, I think to the system, we would both say thank you. So, yeah, thank you.